At 19, he stands at the threshold of youth, while I at 56 embrace the wisdom of experience. The passage of time has not deterred my spirit. A knock echoed through the silence, marking the beginning of something unforeseen. A delicate, soothing tap that carried no hint of distress. Merely a tender nudge that life continued beyond the serene confines of my home. As I strolled to the door in my robe, my hair clung to my shoulders, still damp from the lukewarm shower I had reluctantly taken earlier that morning. As I swung the door open, my mind conjured images of the mailman or perhaps a familiar neighbor standing on the threshold. Yet, it was Aiden, the son of my closest companion. 19, lofty, glistening slightly under the oppressive summer sun. He donned a white tank top that embraced his chest and accentuated his arms in all the perfect ways. His tousled curls framed his face, and his grin held a youthful charm. "Hello, Miss Eleanor," he said, raising a small box in his hands. "My mother requested that I deliver this to you." His voice resonated with a depth I had long forgotten. For a fleeting instant, I paused, then a smile broke across my face. "Aiden, oh, dear, it has been months since our paths last crossed." He presented the package to me, and I caught a whiff of the delicate aroma of soap and cologne intertwined with the warmth of the sun. "Indeed, I've been quite occupied with my studies and various commitments. However, my mother insisted that this held great significance." "Enter," I beckoned, moving aside to make way. "Allow me to extend the simple pleasure of a refreshing glass of lemonade to you." He paused, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. "Only if you are certain." I must insist. He entered the room, and the ease with which he carried himself, so poised, so self-assured, left my throat parched. Perhaps it was the manner in which his tank unveiled just enough to conjure images of all that lay beyond. Perhaps I had simply been adrift in solitude for far too long. I filled 2 glasses and offered him one. For a fleeting moment, our fingers grazed against one another. He gazed at me with those rich, deep brown eyes and offered a smile. "By the way, you look fantastic." I chuckled, perhaps a touch too hastily. "This ancient garment protests." "No, seriously," he said, taking a sip. "You continue to possess that remarkable quality." The words lingered in the air between us, ethereal and elusive, much like wisps of smoke. Perilous, sugary haze. We lingered in the living room. I folded my legs, a sudden awareness washing over me as I noted the looseness of my robe. Aiden's gaze darted, if only for a fleeting moment, to my exposed thigh before he averted his eyes with a semblance of decorum. I cleared my throat. "How is school treating you these days?" "Uninteresting," he remarked with a smile. "I would prefer to engage in a task that involves my hands." I took a deep breath. The atmosphere shifted. Perhaps it was merely a figment of my imagination. Perhaps it was merely my own wild musings. Yet, I sensed it. I savored another sip of lemonade, making an effort to maintain a cheerful tone. "It seems you have quite the knack for handling tools, don't you?" "Indeed," he remarked. "Occasionally, I lend a hand to my uncle with various plumbing tasks." In an instant, an idea crept into my mind, seemingly innocent at first glance, yet tinged with a shadowy undertone lurking beneath the surface. "My shower has been behaving oddly," I remarked. "Minimal pressure. Cold water is something I truly despise. Would you mind taking a moment to examine this?" He straightened his posture. "At this moment? Should you find yourself with time to spare?" He flashed a grin. "Take the helm." I escorted him to the bathroom. With each step, my robe swayed, and I made no effort to adjust it. He knelt beside the tub, his fingers deftly twisting knobs and inspecting the pipes with a meticulous eye. I lingered in the shadows, observing the way the muscles in his back rippled beneath the delicate fabric of his tank top. "There's a leak beneath this," he remarked, extending his hand deeper. "It likely requires a washer replacement. Is there a way to mend it?" "Indeed. It seems a trip to the hardware store may be in order." I nestled beside him, drawing nearer than was necessary. Our shoulders brushed against one another. His breath seemed to hang in the air for a fleeting moment. He gazed at me, and this time, he held my gaze. Our faces hovered in close proximity. excessively silent. His gaze lingered on my lips before drifting down the soft cascade of my robe. I ought to have distanced myself. I ought to have spoken up. However, I chose not to. He did not either. The stillness conveyed our thoughts. "Thank you, Aiden," I murmured. "For what purpose?" His voice was a hushed whisper, shrouded in mystery. "For rekindling the emotions within me once more." He remained silent. He simply gazed at me. In that instant, I realized everything had shifted. That night, I reclined in bed, brushing my fingers over my lips as if he had pressed his own against them. He had not. Not at this moment. Yet, I longed for him to. I ought not to have done that. He was the son of my closest friend. Youthful, attractive, inquisitive, yet, desire knows no boundaries, and I had merely cracked open a door to an abyss I could never shut. The following morning, Aiden occupied my thoughts incessantly. Those eyes of his, those hands of his, the way he gazed at me suggested I was more than merely a mother. More than just an aging widow draped in a silk robe. I stood before the mirror, gently brushing my hair. The fabric of my robe cinched a touch more snugly today. Yet, I observed the way my skin radiated, as if it held onto the memory of his warmth, despite the fact that he had never laid a hand on me. A knock at the door echoed once more. My heart leapt. Could it have been him? I opened it, and indeed, there he stood, Aiden. Yet, on this occasion, he was not clad in a tank top. He donned a fitted black t-shirt that accentuated his chest, with jeans that draped perfectly. In his grasp, he clutched a small, unassuming brown bag. He lifted the bag and declared that he had brought the washer. "I plan to complete the repairs on your shower." I released a soft chuckle, masking the rapid thrum of my heart beneath the surface. "Your kindness knows no bounds." He entered once more, as if he had always been a part of this place. I observed his movements, at ease and self-assured, exuding a subtle power. We made our way to the bathroom once more. The fabric of my robe glided softly over my thighs. His eyes caught sight but quickly moved on. He sank to his knees beside the tub, unzipped the bag, and began his task with focused determination. I perched on the rim of the tub, observing him intently. I made an effort to avert my gaze. Yet, I faltered. "You keep looking at me," he said, his gaze fixed elsewhere. A smile graced my lips. "Your appearance is quite pleasing." He raised his eyes gradually, locking onto my gaze. "You are as well." The silence enveloped once more, a presence that drew you in more profoundly than any spoken word ever could. "In need of a towel?" I inquired abruptly, rising to my feet with haste. "Indeed," he remarked. "My hands are damp." I pivoted and made my way to the linen cabinet. The fabric of my robe gently slipped from my shoulder. I left it as it was. As I pivoted, I found him there, nearer than he had been moments ago. Water cascaded from his fingertips. In that moment, I leaned in softly, offering him the towel. He accepted it, but rather than drying his hands immediately, he lifted his fingers and softly brushed a droplet of water from my collarbone. His touch was gentle, excessively gentle. I drew in a breath. "Sharp and sudden, Eleanor," he uttered, as if seeking confirmation. As I gazed into his eyes, guilt was absent, only warmth, desire, marvel. I allowed him to continue unimpeded. His hand glided to my waist. In an instant, his lips found theirs on mine. It lacked speed. It lacked any sense of wildness. The pace was languid, delightful. Experimentation. I surrendered to him, my fingers gliding over his chest, sensing the rapid rhythm of his heartbeat mirroring my own. He hesitated, retreating ever so slightly. He expressed his desire to do that since yesterday. I took a deep breath. "I have desired that long before you arrived at my door." That confession shattered the delicate barrier that existed between us. He pressed his lips against mine once more, this time with a greater intensity. My robe slipped ajar, and I made no effort to close it. His hands navigated my body as if I were a novel he longed to delve into. Tracing every curve, every inch, every soft sigh I struggled to suppress. Once more, I found myself embodying the essence of womanhood. More than a widow, more than merely a mother. I was yearned for, yearned, vibrant. In the quiet aftermath, we found ourselves sprawled on the plush bathroom rug. Limbs entwined, hearts racing in unison, silence enveloped us, each moment stretching as we hesitated to break the stillness. At last, Aiden murmured, "Was that all right?" I shifted my gaze and regarded him. Superior to merely satisfactory. He added, "I didn't want to push you." "You did not," I stated. "I desired this just as fervently as you did." He smiled. A genuine, radiant smile that rendered him not only younger but also imbued with a newfound strength. I suggested that perhaps we ought to keep this to ourselves. He inclined his head in acknowledgement. They simply wouldn't grasp it. I gazed up at the ceiling. I find myself perplexed by it all. Yet I hold no regrets. I did not. In that cozy, intimate bathroom, I rediscovered something I believed was gone forever: desire, touch, connection, a yearning that transcends solitude. It arrived in the guise of a 19-year-old boy, awakening within me the essence of womanhood once more. The following morning, I found myself clad in Aiden's black t-shirt. The scent was reminiscent of him, fresh, youthful, and brimming with playful intrigue. He departed after our encounter in the bathroom, wearing a nervous smile and flushed cheeks. Yet before he stepped through the door, he drew me in for one final kiss. "Take your time this time around," extended, as if he longed to recall the essence of my flavor. As I strolled barefoot into my kitchen, his shirt draping mid-thigh, the lingering warmth of his hands enveloped me. The tingling persisted, refusing to fade into the background. I filled my mug with steaming coffee, settled at the counter, and gazed out the window. The sun hung high in the sky. The melodious chirping of birds filled the air. Yet within me, a tempest had begun to brew. What actions did we undertake? I found myself at the age of 56. At the age of 19. He stood on the precipice of adulthood. The son of my closest companion. I ought to have put an end to it. I ought to have distanced myself from him. Yet, I refrained. For the first time in years, I felt the warmth of a touch. Deeply moved, beyond mere contact. It's a connection of souls. He truly acknowledged my presence. At the stroke of noon, my phone vibrated with a sudden buzz. A piece of writing. "Aiden, would it be all right if I swung by later?" I gazed at the message, allowing it to linger in my thoughts for a brief moment. My thumbs lingered above the keyboard. Poised for action, I responded in the affirmative. Indeed. Doors swing wide. My heart raced the instant I pressed send. At 2 p.m., he reappeared in my doorway, a bag of groceries in hand. He stepped inside and declared, "I thought I'd whip up something special for you today. Are you cooking now?" I inquired, arching an eyebrow. He grinned. "Not quite well, yet I make an effort." I departed, guiding him toward the kitchen. He placed the bag on the ground and retrieved pasta, tomatoes, and a small block of cheese. In that fleeting moment, he appeared utterly innocent, so achingly normal. This was hardly unusual. This was our routine, something we had always done. As he brought the water to a rolling boil for the pasta, I busied myself with the knife, deftly chopping the ripe tomatoes. We toiled together, our shoulders brushing against each other from time to time. At times, our fingers brushed against each other as we both reached for the same spoon. Fleeting glimmers, innocuous yet undeniably alluring. "Eleanor," he inquired softly, "what's that? Did I overstep my bounds yesterday?" I hesitated. My gaze fell upon him. What I witnessed transcended the mere image of a teenage boy infatuated. I encountered a man, brimming with inquiries and a thirst for knowledge. And perhaps, just perhaps, something more profound. "No," I murmured gently. "You haven't crossed anything." We both ventured into something together. He inclined his head in acknowledgement. Yet, the stillness that ensued revealed his lingering uncertainty. "I understand that it's not typical," he remarked. "You have aged. You are simply yourself. What am I? Exquisite, intelligent, beyond my reach." I blinked. Then, a smile graced their lips. "You possess a certain sweetness." He gazed at me as if there were unspoken words lingering on his lips. Yet, he moved in closer, his fingers extended, brushing softly against my cheek. "May I kiss you again?" he inquired, his voice scarcely rising above a whisper. I inclined my head in agreement. And in that fleeting moment, our lips found each other once more. Gentler this time, more unhurried. Exercise greater caution. His arms encircled my waist, and I felt myself surrender to the warmth of his embrace. My hand glided beneath his shirt, fingers tracing the contours of his abdomen. He inhaled sharply, and that sound awakened a profound sensation within me. Our lips met fervently, the heat of our passion rising until the water erupted in a furious boil, hissing defiantly against the stove. Later, we found ourselves on the couch, plates of half-eaten pasta resting in our laps, sharing laughter over the unfortunate flavor of our meal. Perhaps we should have opted for pizza, I playfully suggested. He wore a smile. Next time, I shall allow you to take the reins in the kitchen. His hand lingered on my exposed thigh, fingers tracing delicate circles. I remained still. I remained unperturbed. I desired it. It was essential for me. Are you frightened? He inquired abruptly. I paused to reflect. Indeed, yet, I harbor no regrets. He leaned closer, pressing his lips against my shoulder. I feel the same way. Once more, the irresistible tug made its presence known. The tension that lingers between the purity of innocence and the awareness of impending consequences. Yet, in that instant, nothing else held significance. What truly mattered was how his touch awakened a sense of blooming within me once more. Vibrant. Seeking. Adored? No, not at this moment. Yet perhaps, in the fullness of time. That evening, he lingered a while longer before departing. We reclined in the bed. His chest pressed against my back. His breath warm against my neck. His hand sought mine beneath the sheets, grasping it firmly, radiating warmth and a sense of security. In that moment, it dawned on me. This transcended mere moments. This was evolving into something greater. A perilous situation. Something genuine. To all my amazing Ella Infidelity Stories subscribers, I extend my heartfelt gratitude for your unwavering support until the very end. You are the very essence of this channel. If you find yourself here for the first time, I invite you to press that subscribe button and join a community that embraces the courage to feel love and venture into the uncharted. Let us plunge into the concluding chapter. The morning sun filtered through my bedroom window, painting golden stripes upon the sheets. Aiden lay peacefully beside me, his hand delicately placed on my waist, his breath a gentle whisper against the nape of my neck. He appeared serene, so very young, such fragility. I observed him intently for an extended period. This young lad, this individual, the son of my closest companion. What led us to this moment? How did a single package transform into a fervent passion? I eased myself out of bed, taking care to avoid disturbing him. As I lingered by the mirror, wrapping my robe tightly around me, the gravity of our actions finally pressed down on my chest. What might others express? What might she express? His mother, my dearest companion for more than 2 decades? What would her gaze reveal if she were aware that her son had pressed his lips against mine, caressed my body, and breathed my name as I lay quivering beneath him? Could she ever find it in her heart to forgive me? Aiden stirred from his slumber not long after. He approached me from behind in the kitchen, encircling my waist with his arms, and placed a tender kiss in the curve of my neck. Morning, he murmured, his eyes still heavy with sleep, a smile playing on his lips. Good morning, I murmured, yet, my voice carried a distinct quality. Strained. Proceed with caution. He observed immediately. What's the matter? He inquired. I rotated within his embrace, cradling his face gently in my palms. Aiden, we must have a conversation. His smile dimmed. He was aware. This can't keep happening. I murmured gently. We ventured beyond a boundary, and I find no remorse in that decision. Yet, it is intricate. Excessively intricate. He remained silent. He gazed into my eyes as if seeking something to grasp. You're just 19, I added, and I am myself. You're not merely anything, he said swiftly. You have occupied my thoughts since the very instant I stepped into your home. His words tugged at my heartstrings. Yet, the clamor of my fear drowned everything else out. What would happen if your mother discovers the truth? I murmured. What if this destroys it all? He advanced with measured intent, his hands softly clasped around my hips. In that case, we shall proceed with caution. Yet, how much longer can we continue to conceal ourselves? I inquired. He paused, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. In that moment of silence, we both understood that what we shared had transcended mere desire. It was peril. It blazed fiercely, devoid of any water in sight. 2 days slipped away. I refrained from calling him. He failed to send a message. I repeatedly reassured myself that it had come to an end. Yet, on that third afternoon, the sound of my phone pierced the silence. It was she, mother of Aiden. My heart soared into my throat. I responded, making an effort to maintain a sense of normalcy. "Greetings, darling," she exclaimed with a bright smile. "Aiden mentioned that he stopped by to repair your shower. Thank you for allowing him the opportunity to assist. He mentioned that he felt remarkably mature in your presence." I took a deep breath. He was quite the assistance, I remarked with deliberation. "I swear that boy is blossoming into quite the gentleman." She continued. "He mentioned that you prepared pasta for him as well, describing it as terrible yet endearing." I chuckled uneasily. He is indeed correct. A moment of silence hung in the air, and then she uttered a phrase that sent a chill coursing through my veins. "You know," she murmured, "he speaks of you often." "Indeed, a considerable amount. More than what a mere neighbor ought to do." My breath hitched. "I can't quite grasp the situation, Eleanor," she continued, "but you mean the world to me. Like family. I place my trust in you." A knot of guilt coiled tightly within me. Faith. That was the word that shattered my resolve. Under the cover of night, I sent a message to Aiden. "It is imperative that we cease our actions." His response came with remarkable swiftness. "What is the reason behind this? Your mother is beginning to have her suspicions. This cannot continue." A moment of stillness hung in the air. Then he conveyed, "But I love you." My fingers stiffened against the screen. Affection? My eyes brimmed with tears. That word had not graced my ears in years. Yet, I was acutely aware of the path I needed to take. "Then love me enough to release this," I responded, "prior to its annihilation of all that exists." His last words arrived. "You will forever be the first woman who awakened my spirit. It has been ages since I last laid eyes on Aiden. Not since that fateful night. At times, I find myself lingering by the window, anticipating a knock that remains elusive. Yet, I recall the tenderness of his touch, the sweetness of his kiss that made me feel significant. In that fleeting moment, I transcended the identity of a widow grappling with a malfunctioning shower. I became a woman awakening to the sensation of being desired once more. At times, love arrives not in a neatly wrapped, eternal form. At times, it is merely a fleeting instant, a kiss taken in secret, a murmur in the shadows. And that must suffice.